Good morning and welcome to Monte Vista Unitarian Universalist congregation to our Sunday service, the first of our new year, 2025. And before we usher in our new year, I want to give a shout out to our community celebrations in December. Our holiday party was a great success with food, decorations, and Santa Claus for the kids. Thank you to our community team. Do you want to raise your hand, community team? Yay, thank you. And Christmas Eve service was filled with music, singing, and our ritual exchange of light with our fellow congregants. So many thanks to our spiritual life team. So let's see those hands. Oh, yay. So welcome to 2025, and looking ahead, we have an executive board meeting on the 7th at 10:30. If you are interested in a Zoom link, we are not on Zoom early that day, so do see us if you're interested. The 7th, a fundraising meeting via Zoom at 6:30 and headed by Murray Smith. Is Murray here? He just walked in. There he is in the back. If you're interested, give him a shout. On the 8th, we have an administrative team meeting via Zoom at 6:30. And on the 11th, Saturday the 11th, we have a memorial for our dear congregant, Steve Shirley. Look to the announcements for more information on that. And please read your announcements. They have a lot in them. Upcoming events. On the 12th of January, community team meeting, spiritual life team planning retreat on January 18th, poetry potluck service, January 26th, congregational meeting, mid-year budget review, and a land use task force report on January 26th, following services, a work party. Yay, a work party on February 1st, 8 to noon. And please come. We have lots of small things you could do and many large things you could do. Please add any joys and concerns or sorrows to the basket in the back. And now I'd like to introduce Catherine Rowlee, our lay leader for today.
Thank you, Megan. So, we begin our service by sounding our bowl. We sound the bowl 3 times. We sound it once for those who came before, for our ancestors, and before that for the native people, the Tongva, and other people who were the stewards of this land. We sound it once for those of us here and now, for our members and friends, our visitors, staff, and extended UU family who hold, care, and grow this beloved community we know and call our own. And we sound it once for those who will come, for those who will find belonging in the future with us at MVUUC in the days ahead. Our opening words are by Donna Ashworth. Joy does not arrive with a fanfare on a red carpet strewn with the flowers of the perfect life. Joy sneaks in as you pour a cup of coffee, watching the sun hit your favorite tree just right. And you usher joy away because you're not ready for her. Your house is not as it should be for such a distinguished guest. But joy, you see, cares nothing for your messy home or your bank balance or your waistline. Joy is supposed to slither through the cracks of your imperfect life. That's how joy works. You cannot truly invite her you can only be ready when she appears, and hug her with meaning, because in this very moment, joy chose you. And I'm going to ask for Lynn Shaible to come forward and help light our chalice. And I'll read the chalice lighting words. Our chalice is. You slide it forward. Here. Thank you. May this flame that we have just lit, the flames, remind everyone that we can be the light of love in the world. May this clear flame be a symbol that every heart can burn bright with joy, peace, and harmony. May the wisdom of the ages speak to us through this flame and stay within us. Every one of us can be a blessing to this world. And now we'll say our covenant together. If you'd like to stand, we can stand while we say our covenant, and then we'll sing Spirit of Life. We affirm that love is the greatest purpose of this congregation. The search for truth is our constant star, and service is our prayer. We pledge our hearts, minds, and hands to challenge injustice with courage, to make choices for a healthier planet, and to live out our Unitarian Universalist values every day as beloved community. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all that is sacred in life. Now we have Robert Tidwell come forward, our Director of the Lifespan Religious Exploration, with a story for all ages.
Good morning, everybody. Today's story is called Mouse and Crow, and it's by Kelly Weisman and Spruce Jackson. There was once a crow who was very hungry. Flying over the tops of the trees, it spotted a large, tasty-looking walnut growing from one of the tallest branches below. Seeing the makings of a fine supper, the crow swooped down and plucked the dangling walnut and held it triumphantly in its beak. The crow flapped its wings happily and began to think about how best to break open the shell of the walnut. Meanwhile, on the ground below, the crow, an equally hungry mouse, saw everything that had happened and decided that it wanted the same walnut for itself. With a plan that was clever, though not particularly nice, the mouse called up to the crow high in the tree. "Say there, friend crow, what's that in your beak?" The crow, who was hungry enough by now that it wasn't thinking all of its decisions through very well, called back, "I found a very nice walnut and I'm going to eat it." When the crow opened its mouth to say all of that, the walnut fell out and dropped to the ground, just as the mouse had hoped it would. But the mouse didn't count on where the walnut would land when it fell. It hit the ground and rolled into a shallow hole. The mouse ran to the hole and reached in to pull out the walnut so that it could crack the shell and eat it. But the hole was just small enough that the mouse could not pull it out with both of its hands wrapped around. The walnut was too wide to get back out of the hole. The crow, meanwhile, was unhappy at having been tricked out of its supper and began to shout at the mouse down below, who couldn't leave because it was still holding onto the walnut, trying and failing to pull it out of the hole in the ground. Now, if the two of them had worked together, they both might have have gotten to enjoy some of the walnut. The crow could have pecked it with its sharp beak down into the hole and broken up the walnut into smaller pieces. Then the mouse could have reached in and picked each piece out, one piece at a time. But instead, the two of them were stuck there, arguing with each other and both still hungry. The mouse because it couldn't let go, and the crow because it couldn't hold on. And now if the kids that are present can come up and get our chalice, you guys can sing this to our classroom.
You're going to come, right? So this is our time in our service where we take our offering, our offertory, and it is a new month, a new year. We have a new organization that we're all very familiar with, at least those of us who've been around, and Megan Gallagher is going to introduce it. We for explanation, we offer half of our undesignated offering funds to some organization that's chosen by our Justice Committee.
This month, our Share the Plate will be with the Philippine Partner Church at Calapayan in the Philippines. And I'm just going to give you a brief overview, and over the next few Sundays, you'll hear more about our partnership. Calapayan is in the Philippines. And by congregational meeting, unanimous approval in June of 2007, a full partnership between Monte Vista Unitarian Universalist congregation and the Calapayan UU congregation, Negros Oriental, Philippines, was established. Since that time, we've worked with the Calapayan congregation to support their community and the education of their young people. Through the years, many of our congregants have visited. Anybody here that has visited Venerable? Anybody else? I know other people have gone. Reverend Maggie, Julie Steinbeck, have visited this congregation in the Philippines and made they have visited Unitarian Universalist congregations in the Philippines and then made the trek to our sister congregation in Calapayan. Yearly, we raise funds for the education needs of their children and young people. Our Share the Plate this month is to support that education, and you'll hear more from us about Calapayan in the coming months. A working group to support our partnership is forming, and I invite you to please let me know if you're interested in being part of this group. Thank you.
Okay, so please come forward with your offering while we listen to Lily. Thank you. So, confessions. I totally forgot our opening song, I realized. You probably didn't realize. You knew I was forgetting and you didn't tell me. But anyway, it was Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. And I know we're all feeling it, so I am so sorry about that. It was on my script, but it was way down at the bottom, and I didn't notice it and forgot about it. So, also, I forgot to mention that we also collect for the Beta Center food for the local food pantry, but I saw quite a bit of food coming, so we pretty much know our routine. But don't forget to tell me if I'm forgetting something. I don't care. Sorry. Okay. So really, tell me. But it is time now that we will share personal joys and concerns with one another. There is none in the basket. And I don't know, are there any on Zoom? My Zoom has, No, no. So, there is one, well, there are two things that are not in baskets or anything, but Reverend Maggie told us that we can share that she is not here today. She's with George celebrating her 11th wedding anniversary. So that's a very happy thing. And I have a little joy, and some of you might share this, but I feel really happy that we have our Buddha light, which we've had every year since Kusala first came to speak to us. I think it was in 2006, and it was a gift from Shirley to Steve, and he brought it every year, and Shirley has brought it to us this year, and I'm very grateful. So that's a joy. And I know that we have others unexpressed things, but let's enter into a time of meditation and prayer together. So take a few deep breaths, breathing in and out. We quiet our minds and we feel our bodies relax. Breathing slowly in and out. Feel your shoulders relax. Feel your hearts open. We celebrate the joys that have been expressed here today. We send compassion to those who we know are holding grief and suffering in their hearts today within our congregation, within our room. We send our loving compassion out to those people and beings beyond these walls, to the multitudes on this earth who are suffering, who are frightened, who are struggling. And we send our loving thoughts inwards towards ourselves. I offer this poem by Mary Oliver as a prayer. Look, the trees are turning their own bodies into pillars, pillars of light. They are giving off a rich fragrance of cinnamon and fulfillment. The long tapers of cattails are bursting and floating away over the blue shoulders of the ponds. And every pond, no matter what its name is nameless now. Every year, everything I have ever learned in my lifetime leads back to this. The fires and the black rivers of loss, whose other side is salvation, whose meaning none of us will ever know. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes, to let it go. To let it go. I don't know, somehow that brought me to tears. Thank you, Lily. You're such a gift. Your music and your offerings are so perfect. I'm now going to invite Lynn Shaible up with a short perspective. Lynn, along with Reverend Ellen, has maintained our sort of community meditation group. So,
Thank you, Catherine. Good morning. Learning from those who pass through our lives. The Venerable Kusala Bhikshu has shared his time with us here at MVUUC on countless first Sundays of the year. We're drawn to him to listen as well as to enjoy. There's that old saying by Michael P. Watson, strong people don't put others down, they lift them up. In life, such strong people appear as an opportunity to offer awareness of not only the fragility of our moments in life, but also the moments when enlightenment appears in the form of one of our own. In Buddhism, lifting up signifies the act of elevating oneself or others from negativity, suffering, and ignorance, often associated with compassion and spiritual growth, as well as the pursuit of enlightenment. We will not be here forever, but we may allow ourselves to pursue what lifts us through the appearance and energy of those who share messages of right thinking. May we all be fortunate to be aware of our messengers, be they a friend, a companion pet, a small bird flying by, a graceful butterfly, or a warm and wise teacher such as Kusala.
thank you. Yeah, Kusala's big tradition around here. I don't know how we could start our new year without you, but you know what? Some new year, something different will probably happen. If you are not familiar with Kusala Bhikshu, which means monk, I would like to give a short introduction, and we can always all hear this again. It's a little updated because there's been some new stuff. He was ordained Thich Tam Tien in the Zen tradition of Vietnam in 1994. Okay, he has been the head monk at the International Buddhist Meditation Center in Koreatown, Los Angeles, for over 20 years. He has spoken at many public events to a wide range of Buddhist and secular audiences. He has done an incredible amount of service in the community. His popularity, as it says on his website, comes probably from his candid, almost comic distillation of the Mahayana Buddhist tradition. When he's not teaching, he can usually be found caring for 12-plus homeless cats, living at his meditation center, working on his website, Urban Dharma, or on his podcasts, or posting on Facebook, and also on writing. He has recently released his first book, written with Rebecca Wilson, and he's told me it took 9 years for this to come to fulfillment. It's right here. It's available on Amazon, and he's generously given us 2 copies to share among ourselves. So it's called Urban Dharma, Buddhism in America, 20 Years of Buddhist Stories from an LA City Monk. And in reviewing the book, Tricycle Magazine writes, Kusala Bhikshu's colorful account covers 20 years of doing Buddhism rather than being Buddhism. Kusala traveled around Los Angeles by motorcycle and served as chaplain at a prison, at a juvenile detention camp, and a hospital. He also was a ride-along chaplain for an Orange County Police Department. His portraits of suffering people and the lowest points of their lives makes for elevated reading, buoyed by Kusala's unfailing compassion and intrepid sense of humor. It is often his doubts and humility in the face of hostility that win people over. He is not afraid to say, I don't know. And that was from the fall 2024 What We're Reading section if you get Tricycle Magazine. So with those words, I welcome Kusala.
Okay. Good to be here today. There's no traffic out there. It's wonderful. So I should start with I don't know. But I got to say something because I'm standing up here. So I'm going to talk about a story that Ajahn Chah shared at his meditation retreat in Thailand. He's a forest monk. And some of his students came and he needed to say something, so this is the story that he shared. The cup is already broken. And he pointed to a goblet that was on a shelf. And he said, look how beautiful that is. Look how the light is reflected. And if I were to hit it with my thumbnail, it makes this wonderful sound. It's just beautiful. And I use it every day, and I drink out of it, and it's a perfect cup. But, he said, I know one day that the wind might blow it off the shelf and break it into 100 pieces. Or I might walk by it and knock it off with my elbow. That's why when I see this cup, I'm so grateful, because I know it is already broken. Now, when I first read this story, I thought to myself, man, what a negative way of looking at life. You know, that it's supposed to be filled with joy. We talked a little bit about that so far, happiness. And yet, it always has to come to an end. There's a shelf life, and we all have one. And you wonder, you know, first there's the career thing, and people retire after 20 years or 30 years, and so the shelf life expired. And there's always new stuff happening. And impermanence is one of the three aspects of Buddhist reality that is necessary to understand how life works. So when I thought about impermanence, I thought about myself. And I looked in the mirror and wondered who that person was 20 years ago. Because it's not the same person looking in the mirror today, or even 40 years ago, or maybe 50 years ago. And then I thought to myself, wow, you're getting old. And how many more years do I have? And I remember my mother, who passed away at 84, she said, the hardest part about being old is you don't have a future. And I thought to myself, wow, does that force you into the present moment experience of your life? Sometimes it can. Sometimes not knowing is the way to go. So when I say I don't know, it often means that there's a lot of stuff to know. And in the beginning, I didn't have a lot of time to know all that stuff. And now, at my tender age of 75, I don't care. Why do I have to know this? What good will it do me? Can I use it in the future? If I don't have a future, I'm not going to be able to use it. So then I look at Los Angeles, and I moved to Los Angeles in 1969. And it was cool. They had hippies. Sunset Boulevard. You know, we had some of the best music ever created in the 70s and the 60s. And it just felt good to be part of that rhythm that was here. And then we got into the 80s and the 90s, and sometimes you work too much, and sometimes you worry too much, and sometimes you just miss the joy of those moments that happen every day because you're distracted by the future, or you're distracted by regretting the past. So how can you come to this present moment and see the transition as being positive and hopeful? Well, number one, the best part about impermanence is it makes room for the new. Stuff comes in. I thought to myself, right now we've got a little over 8 billion people. And in 100 years, most of them will be dead. But 100 years from now, we may have 9 billion people. And we need to make room for those. So some of us have to go. And some die early, and some die middle age, and some die late. Now, one of the most interesting pages for me on Facebook are all the people that died in 2024. And I'm looking at the celebrities and the stars and the personalities, and I know most of them, or at least I know of them. I haven't met them. And I thought to myself, wow, it really doesn't matter who you are or how much you have or how great you are. You're going to have to check out. Impermanence sort of is in our face. Right now, we're thinking about Jimmy Carter. He lived 100 years, married for 77. That, to me, is amazing. I haven't been married 1 year. And he was married 77 years. And people say, well, he wasn't a really strong president. He wasn't a really good president. Not sure what good or strong means in this context. But what he did after his presidency was amazing. His life was devoted to service. He saw that everyone needs a little help, and he could offer his help to them. And even at 90 years old, he was still helping build houses. Come on, really? You know, I'm thinking if I make it to 90, I'd like to put my feet in the lake and watch the sunrise and just sort of relax. But Jimmy didn't want to go there. He needed to do stuff. He needed to make a difference. And I think he'll be known for that for a really long time. So what does this impermanence thing allow us to do? It allows us to change. It allows us to grow. It allows us not have to be the person we were yesterday. We can be the next person tomorrow. We're always evolving. We're always turning into something. And sometimes it's really good what we turn into. And other times, maybe not so good. But we always have a chance, because of impermanence, to rectify the situation if it didn't turn out so well. You know, and I thought to myself, yeah, impermanence is our friend, really, even though it's hard to understand that sometimes when we lose people we love or lose pets that we're attached to. It's hard to let them go. But impermanence is our teacher, and the lesson is, how do I let go of everything today so I can face tomorrow with a clean slate and not have any preconceived ideas of how it's supposed to be or how I would like it to be. And why is that the case? Because that causes a lot of suffering. Because it never turns out the way we think it should turn out. Now, I am blessed to not have much hair and keep it short. So my haircut looks good almost every day. I don't have to worry about that. But there are a lot of people who are really into looking a certain way because they want to be somebody, they want to look like somebody, and they want to have that attitude. And so they work hard. They spend $50 at the salon, they have the hair dryer, they got the hairspray. They're really working hard, and it looks good most of the time. But wouldn't it be nice not to have to do that? Wouldn't it be nice not to have to care what all those people thought we were supposed to be, and we could just be who we are? Now, that question of who we are takes a lifetime to figure out. And it's never satisfactory because we're always changing. Just when we got it figured out, something happens and we got to be somebody else. Now, in Buddhism, they talk about not self. You are not the self. And why would that be the case? Because that self that we think we are is always changing. It doesn't have any substantiability. It is something that turns out to be an illusion. And here we are defining ourselves in this way or that way. But we can't be a not self either. We're forced into being somebody. We're forced into paying taxes. They have our number, our Social Security number. So we got to be that guy or that gal. We might break the law and go a little too fast, and the highway patrol pulls us over. And then we have to be the guy in the driver's license. Because if you told the officer that you weren't that guy, it's all an illusion. There might be other problems because of that. So here we are looking at impermanence, and it's like the river. You know that old saying, it's the river flowing, and you can't put the same foot in the same river twice. And we could add something, you can't put the same foot in the same river twice, because it's a different foot each time as well. So it's the flow. It's going with the flow. It's understanding the flow and not being attached to it. Now, the second part of that story that I got was gratitude. He was grateful that he had the use of that goblet or that cup as long as he did, even knowing it wouldn't be forever. So each day was special because he could use that cup. And if you look at your life and see all the people and pets and things that make your life what it is, how could we not be grateful? What a miracle it is. It comes out of nowhere, it exists for a while, and then it goes away. And then the next thing happens, and it exists for a while, and it goes away, moment by moment. You know, it's just, when I made a list of people that I was grateful for, it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, because there's a lot of reasons to be grateful for everybody. How about that trash truck at 6 o'clock in the morning? Makes a lot of noise in my neighborhood, the emptying those trash bins. But you know what? I'm grateful that they come, because if they didn't, we'd have trash piled up higher than I could see. And then I'm grateful that we have water, and I don't have to go to the lake to get it. I can just turn on the faucet. You know, so all those little things that we just take for granted that are supposed to be there, they could elicit gratefulness from us. We could look at that as being somewhat of a miracle. That in LA we have a little over 3.5 million people. And somehow we have enough water and enough food. Maybe too many potholes, but nothing is perfect. And just to be grateful for that. And I have 10 cats that I feed every day. Those little guys, they never say thank you. But I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to feed them. And I feed them at 5:30 in the morning. And if you're up at that time now, it's dark. And how cool is that? I've got my little flashlight, and I check the fish pond to make sure it's intact. And then I look at the bird feeders that I have, and they're empty, so I've got to fill those up. And then the cats start gathering, because they know Kusala is about to open up those magical cans and feed them. And we have cats in the front, and we have cats in the back. And some of the cats in the front are neighborhood cats. So they just come to visit for food, and we don't see them the rest of the time. And I'm sitting on the steps in the front of the meditation center, and I've got all my little plates lined up, and the cats are eating. And as I sit there, I notice the dog people, and they're walking. And they have a leash, and they're walking the dog, and they're walking the dog. And some people have really big dogs, and some people have really small dogs. Some people are looking at their cell phone, some people are looking at the dog, some people are just looking. How lucky and grateful should they be that they have an opportunity to be up at 5:30 every morning, to walk their dog, to see the streets before the pedestrians show up, and the cars start to show up in the avenues, and you just go, it's almost quiet. In LA, it's never quiet, but it's almost quiet. And this bonding that goes on every day. Oh, it's wonderful. How grateful am I to be able to do that? And how about the merit? I get a lot of merit for feeding those cats. And one day, when it's time for me to enjoy my next rebirth, I get to cash the merit in. So I might be reborn in Palos Verdes. You never know. How wonderful is that? And my 20 years of service, which the book is all about, urban dharma. I never got paid a penny, you know? And people say, well, why did you do it? I said, well, because I was a Buddhist and people were suffering. Were they suffering a lot? Sometimes they were. Were they suffering a little? Sometimes they were. What did you expect to get from that? Nothing. Nothing. Did anybody ever come up and say thank you? No, they were sort of like the cats. They just expected me to be there. Well, were you trained? Were you well trained? Well, in the police department, I was trained, yeah. But the other forms of service I didn't have much training. Well, what did you do, Kusala? What did you do? I said, I showed up. That's the secret. You got to show up. When the book was not about Buddhist being, it was about Buddhist doing. It's really important to do something, more important than to be something. Everybody wants to be something, but a lot of people don't want to do anything. And so you get out there and you start seeing, just by being there, just by seeing what needs to be done. Maybe if you're feeding people, you wash the dishes, or you serve them, or you give them second helpings. That's it. That's all you need to do. You don't need any deep philosophical model on how to do it. You just show up and see what needs to be done. And as I get older and older and older, that's my philosophy of life. Every morning I show up and I just see what needs to be done. And the day will always tell me. Yesterday, laundry. Laundry spoke to me. You need to do something. You don't need to be something, you need to do something. Wash the laundry. Okay, cool. Then you need to go to the grocery store because you got to buy some food. And thankfully, they had chocolate donuts on sale. It was a wonderful day. Didn't mind doing that at all. Then you got to put gas in the car. Well, you sort of mind that when you get the bill, but then you're grateful you have enough money to buy the gas, and you're grateful that you have the darn car. Somebody asked me the other day, are Buddhist monks supposed to have cars? I said, well, in some countries, no. You can't have a car and you can't drive a car. The lay people drive you around. Okay, but I said, this is America. And we got stuff to do. And I got to be places. And the best way to get there is to have a car. Do you have a good car? I have an adequate car. It's good enough. Would you like a better car? I don't think so. Because then you start getting attached to your car. And then the cats walk on your car and leave the footprints, and you hate the cats because they left the footprints. But when you have an adequate car, you don't care. They can walk all over your car, it's fine. So when I look at this, I look at the impermanence, I look at the gratitude, and I look at the people that help me, I realized what the Buddha said was just profound. He said, our reality as a human being is that we are interconnected and interdependent. That none of us ever stand alone. None of us can do it alone. We need everyone and everything in order to function, in order to be a human being. Now the self says, no, that's not the case. That's a big lie. I can do it myself. And if I have enough money, I can be on top of the hill with a fence and a beautiful house and be up there all alone, and it's all about me. And then the person says, wouldn't that be lonely? To be all alone at the top of the hill in a big house? Yeah, probably. Wouldn't you rather be connected to everybody in your community? Well, I don't like everybody, but that's the point. That's what causes us suffering, is the attachment to the people we like and the aversion to the people we don't like. You'll have a wonderful chance to practice every day, because those kinds of people will be in your life every day. The ones you like and the ones you don't. The ones you agree with, the ones you don't agree with. What a wonderful chance to practice. So when I came to Buddhism, they said it was a practice religion. I said, practice religion? Do you ever stop practicing? No. You never get any better. You just practice. And it sounded so demoralizing. It sounded like, why would I want to practice and not achieve anything? And they said, because there's nothing to achieve. You're already there. You already have as much love as you'll ever need. You already have as much vision as you'll ever need. The problem is you have things preventing you from seeing that you're already there. Some of those things are greed, hatred, and delusion. So when you practice, you don't gain anything. What you do is you get rid of your greed, turn it into compassion and generosity, your hatred, turn it into loving kindness, and your delusion, turning it into wisdom. And somebody the other day said, well, how do you get that wisdom? What books do you have to read to find the wisdom? I said, oh no, there's no books that will give you wisdom. Well, how do you do it then? They said. Well, I said, you have to have an experience and you have to feel it. It's all about the intuition that has atrophied over the generations because we become so smart and intellectual. And now we have AI and it's going to be thinking for us. We won't have to do anything. The wisdom comes from feeling. It's intuitive, I think. And if you've ever heard a speaker, I remember somebody who gave a talk. In fact, his name was Ram Dass. I don't know if you've ever listened to Ram Dass, but I just loved the way he presented his Dharma, and he always used himself as an example, usually an example of failure. But he didn't give up. He just kept going and going. So I thought to myself, okay, how can I remember what he said? How can I follow his directions? And I couldn't. I kept forgetting all the good stuff. Thankfully now it's on the internet and it's in books. But when it was live, I couldn't remember because there was so much and it was so interesting. But I always left with a feeling. And the feeling was, I have just come in contact with the truth. I can't repeat it. I don't know it verbatim or word for word. But I feel it's true. That's the wisdom part. That's the wisdom part. And how do you explain that to your friends and relatives? Well, you can't. You're going to have to make stuff up, you know? Because that stuff is so personal, and it's so individual. And we all have our own karma and personal experiences and education. So nobody is going to be able to really, really understand that kind of wisdom, though there are fingers pointing in the direction, but it's not the finger. We only see the finger. It's more than that. It's not the words. It's not the book. It's not even the person generally. It's the feeling. So as I start 2025, I think to myself, the only way it's going to be a good year is for me to make it a good year. If I'm relying on the outside to make my year, I'm going to be disappointed. But if I'm relying on the inside, that personal choice I'm making, the wisdom I feel sometimes, the understanding I have about impermanence and gratitude, this will turn out to be a nice year, a good year, maybe even one of my best years. And what they say about age is, if you look at yourself, think, this could be the best day you're ever going to have. Now, I said that to my doctor a year and a half ago. I went to see him about something, I can't recall what it was. And I'm sitting on the table and I'm looking out the window. It's Kaiser in Hollywood, Sunset Boulevard. And I said, you know what, doctor? This could be the best day we're ever going to have. And he looked at me and said, I hope not. So we need to work on it. But I want to thank you very much for listening to what I didn't have to say. And enjoy 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kusala. Let me put this back a little more in my range. Okay. I don't even want to say anything. Because we sort of know. And I'm not going to forget that we're going to sing a song. So we're going to sing a Blue Boat Home, a beautiful song for us here together right now. So if you feel moved, please rise and let's sing together Blue Boat Home. And closing words I offer are by Edward Searle. Always there is a beginning, a new day, a new month, a new season, a new year. Forever the old passes away and newness emerges from the richness that was. Nothing is ever lost in the many changes time brings. What was, in some way, will be, though changed in form. Always there is a beginning, a new day, a new month, a new season, a new year. And let us speak in unison our benediction, our closing words. Okay. We hold the light of this chalice in our hearts as we extinguish it today, and it will continue to burn brightly within us, helping to guide us on our path until we meet again. And Happy New Year.